I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Market News, here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending June the 13th, where this feeder cattle market rally just continues. And just when we thought that feeder cattle prices couldn't make another $5 jump, this week they jumped $10. And that's was real prevalent right through the midsection of the country, right up through the plains there in the Midwest. Really, all your areas that are in a close proximity to the major grazing regions, and also in a close proximity to the 5-area feeding district, those cattle all sold fully $5 to $10 higher. Not quite as much higher down in other places, but fully $5 to $10 higher. The full advance in instances even more than that, up to $15 in some of our major auctions there in the southern plains, was on your big cattle weighing 750 up to 900 pounds and over. Those big yearling cattle going right into the feedlot. But last week, you know, we had such a big milestone. We set there $2 on 800-pound steers. This week, that was no big deal. OKC West there in El Reno, Oklahoma, they were selling 800 to 900-pound steers up to and just over $2 a pound. And not to knock their cattle, but those cattle couldn't haul water to the cattle that were breaking that level last week in Nebraska. You know, just good cattle, good feeding cattle, but not the one iron, all black, home raised type of short grass yearlings that they were getting those prices for in Nebraska. These were just good backgrounded yearling cattle there in the southern plains. But that's how fast this market's moving. What's a big deal last week, just no big deal this week. But El Reno did quote some fancy steers weighing 975 that bring 189 and a quarter, and that could be the bell ringer for the week right there. That's an awful good price. But all your yearling steers coming off grass here, especially your double stock pastures there in the Flint Hills and the Osage, and all those cattle, they're all priced weighing in the eights at $2 and over now. And they're starting to get that on some cattle now, especially those better strings of those blue stem cattle that are really going to gain good, not getting any supplemental feeding, maybe not even remincing blocks, just out there on the grass, and that's it. Those cattle are starting to bring $2 around, which is really a big deal still, because those cattle won't have the weigh up that your auction cattle have, and they won't be sorted and stressed like those cattle. But $2 is a major milestone, and that's where we're sitting right now. And some of those better strings are starting to bring over $2 to come for late summer and early fall there. But down in the southeast, your market was not quite as hot as it was in the midsection of the country. Those crossbred calves only selling $2 to $3 higher for the most part. And it's not because there's not demand for those cattle. It's just that it's starting to get hot, and especially in western Oklahoma, Texas Panhandle, where a lot of those cattle go, it's not much fun trying to straighten up those cattle when the temperatures are getting up to 100, and it's really starting to get pretty sultry too, because they've been having storms in that area, and it's just hard to kind of straighten up those cattle. And you have to get those cattle straightened up coming out of the southeast, those commingled cattle like that. But feed and forage is plentiful. I'm sorry for you guys that are sitting in dry places right now, but there's a lot of places that have had a lot of good rain. All your grazing country through Kansas, going up into Nebraska, Missouri, Iowa, all your places in the Midwest, and that's where your high production areas are, have had good rains. They've had good rains in West Texas and places like that. Maybe just for a good stand of weeds, but they are getting some moisture, and they haven't had much moisture in the last several years, but starting to get some good moisture in a lot of places. Expecting another all-time record corn crop this year. They had the estimates come out of the World Ag Supply and Demand there this week, expecting a record crop of 13.935 billion bushels of corn. And that's based on a record yield of 165.3 bushels to the acre, and some of these best analysts think it's even going to be higher than that. But plenty of feed around, and plenty of demand, and not many cattle, so that measures up to high prices. Superior Video this week had a big special, the Corn Belt Classic up there in Iowa. this week, and they sold some cattle really high. Among those, and which really sticks out, was 115 head of steers, non-hormone, natural, drug-free cattle coming off Vermilion Ranch in Rock Springs, Wyoming. Those cattle are to weigh 425 pounds in November, bring 301. So maybe by November that won't be a big deal, but today it's an awful big deal. Some cattle breaking $3, weighing 4 1/4 right there. Fat cattle market's finally starting to give some support there. Had kind of a rally this week on the fats, $3 to $5 higher, from 148 in the Southern Plains to 150 in Colorado and the Northern Plains, and 150 is really our high. That we've quoted some cattle, a few deals higher than 150, but we haven't had a weighted average up that high yet. But we're right there at record-breaking level in the fat cattle market again too. Recording this a little bit early, you need to go on to the weekly PDF feeder and stocker cattle summary to get your weighted averages for your regions, and you can check that all out at our website at marketnews.usda.gov. And from the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.